Deep in a kelp forest in Northern California, there is a crab putting on a costume. This crab carefully selects algae, anemones, seaweed, and sponges, which they then fasten to their bodies, which are covered in Velcro-like hairs. Once it's finished suiting up, the crab scuttles into its undersea world undetected. This animal, called the decorator crab, is not alone in its love of disguise or in its skill of bewildering the other. It is, in fact, a very natural thing to put on a costume. Judges don costumes to signify communal trust. Hopeful hirees put on a nice shirt to signify competence. And crabs put on costumes to stay safe. Cross-culturally, in human and animal worlds, we clothe ourselves for particular purposes, to camouflage, to confuse, or to compel others. As Jews who have a tradition of dressing up on Purim, we take our rightful place in the animal kingdom as creatures who find it useful, at least some of the time, to put on a disguise. Tonight, the curtain closes on this year's Purim, but we are currently in the last moments. It's still Purim. So as it disappears into Shabbat, or scuttles off, as you will, what is this holiday coming to do to us or for us? Our tradition teaches that during Adar, the Jewish month during which Purim occurs, we are meant to be joyful. The legal literature presents 4 discrete tasks for Purim: to hear the Megillah, to have a festive meal, to give gifts to our pals, and to give gifts to the poor. The Talmud also adds a 5th ask, and an infamous ask at this, and here I quote in English: "A person is obliged to become intoxicated on Purim until that he does not know, ad shelo yada, how to distinguish between cursed is Haman and blessed is," yes, Mordechai. In understanding this instruction, historically, there has been a lot of attention given to this idea of drunkenness. Some rabbis in the Talmud, and a bevy of rabbis since, including contemporary ones, don't understand the text as encouraging drunkenness from alcohol or other substances. Some rabbis, in fact, call for moderation in drinking. Others seem to altogether reject the idea of drunkenness and rather say that this ad shelo yada, until you don't know, is a state of mind. A person is to become so mixed up, so confused, that they don't know the difference between the hero and the villain. I want to make a case for this alternative reading, unknowing over drunkenness, for 2 reasons. First, I want to read this way to include members of our community who are in recovery or who have experiences in their family systems with addiction. The rabbis were certainly aware of the dangers of alcohol. In fact, there's a story in the Talmud that I won't go into now, but that include a murder and a resurrection at a Purim party. Ask me after if you want to know. That speak to the dangers of intoxication. So by expanding our interpretive tools, we widen the tent for participation in the story and considering what we're all carrying. Secondly, reading it this way, at least in my opinion, is much, much more interesting. We have a text instructing us not to get drunk, but instead saying, forget what you know, forget who you are, and stay there. Stay disoriented. But why? Why blur our vision? To what end? What is this Torah of confusion? When I feel confused, whether deciding what dish to get at a restaurant or how to best respond to a moment of crisis in our world, I often feel really frustrated. I yearn for clarity. I want the comforting reassurance of knowing what's next. Western culture speaks of clarity and certainty as deeply pure and virtuous. When we feel confused or we don't know how to act, we can feel like a failure. But Purim, like a trickster character, offers another type of wisdom. Purim shows us there is a way of seeing and knowing through being in obfuscation, through being in disguise. Famously, the book of Esther, or in Hebrew, Megillat Esther, does not mention God's name. When translated, the name of the book means quite literally the revealing, Gilui, of the hiddenness, Esther. There is much revealing in this story. Esther is revealed as a Jew. Haman, you can boo, is revealed to Achashverosh as a villain. God, too, is hidden in the story, but God's presence is felt through this conspicuous absence. So our question is, what can we find as redeemable, as beautiful in this not knowing? To consider this question, I just want to respond. I want to look at a collection of moments, really a highlight reel, in which God does appear to the Israelites in our story. In Genesis, after the flood, God sends forth a rainbow. God appears to the Israelites in Mount Sinai. God guides the Israelites in the desert for so many years. The Israelites build the Mishkan. God covers it and then fills it. Each of these appearances, however, has something in common. Each of these times God appears in an anan, or a cloud, a presence that blurs or disguises. So in the deepest wells of our tradition, God is cloudy. Let's go back and look at those moments just for a moment. After the flood, God says, I have set my bow, a rainbow, in the clouds. It shall serve as a sign of the covenant between me and earth. As the Israelites shake at the bottom of Mount Sinai, a dense cloud, lightning and loud horn announce the presence of God. As the Israelites wander through the desert, a pillar of cloud leads the people by day. And finally, as the Israelites complete the Mishkan, a cloud covers the tent of meeting, and the presence of the divine fills the Mishkan. God appears to our ancestors in a fog. In these paradigmatic moments of God's presence on earth, God puts on a mask. On Purim, we are instructed to become strange and confused, to baffle ourselves so we cannot tell good from evil. Imagine looking through a foggy field. Is that a tree? Is that a deer? Is that a friend walking towards us? In a fog, distinctions can be hard to articulate. It can be hard to tell the difference between Haman and Mordechai. We may see the qualities of our beloved ones in ones who we thought were wicked. Or we might see complexity in that which we found perfect. What we love and what we don't love start to look similar. In the fog, we see the world anew. Purim's confusion offers us flashes of other realities, other ways of seeing. and a place beyond the realms of right and wrong, even the particularities of our social relationships, a sort of wholeness emerges. The Baal Shem Tov, a Jewish mystic born in the late 1600s who founded Hasidic Judaism, teaches that the whole world is God in drag. The whole world is God in disguise, in a costume. Our whole wild world is divine oneness, hidden in multiplicity. Or we could say, hidden with small pieces of anemone or seaweed, a creature in costume. As we close out Purim, I want to invite you to take this piece of Purim with you. Ad shelo yada, until we don't know, to heed Purim's call to the merits of bewilderment. In a world where so much is truly disorienting, Purim encourages us to grant permission to the fog, to really let in the confusion. May stepping into the fog open our eyes to that which divides us. May leaning into the cloud expand our hearts. May not knowing cleave us to the holiness that saturates our world. Purim Sameach. Shabbat Shalom.